Hi, my name is John Feal. I'm from Wisconsin, Long Island. I'm a 9/11 responder, not a first responder, and I'll get to that in a second. I live here in my comfortable little 1,500 square foot home, and this is where the FealGood Foundation is based out of, and I'll get to that in a second. When I say I'm a first responder, I reserve the right to say cops, firefighters, EMS, those who wore their uniform are truly first responders, those who died that day when the towers came down. But every non-uniform worker who responded to ground zero is a responder, not a first responder. 19 years later, I get tired of correcting that because it's disrespectful to cops and firefighters and EMS who did this for a living. And 9/11 put those men and women on the stage as truly as heroes. They were already heroes, but 9/11 just made them bigger than life. But the responders joined them on that stage. And it was the non-uniform worker who outnumbered the work of 4-1 who helped clean up and do the recovery in that 10 months at ground zero. So kudos to everybody who spent time on the pile in and around ground zero doing God's work. While I got there, after the towers came down, about 12 hours later, I worked there for 5.5 days. And my story truly pales in comparison to those who were there or who died there or who got sick because of being there and then passed away from their 9/11 related illnesses. But 5.5 days of working at ground zero and the first 43 hours working straight without sleeping, on September 17th, roughly 8,000 pounds of steel crushed my left foot. And it took me out of the game. And if I didn't get hurt, I would have been there for the whole 10 months. The injury is considered the worst injury during the cleanup and recovery at ground zero. And that's not a title that I'm proud of. It's not the title that I wanted. But it happened. And it happened to me. And at the time, it was the most devastating thing that ever happened to me. Just being at ground zero for 5.5 days was the most devastating thing that ever happened to me. I didn't need the injury to know where I was, that I'll never forget those 5.5 days. I can remember minute by minute, but I can also block it out. The only thing I cannot block out is the smell. The destruction, the devastation, the carnage, the sheer volume, the mass of 13 acres that looked like a war zone. I could block that out. But that smell, that will haunt me for the rest of my life. And if I shut my eyes and think about it, it will engulf me, and it will squeeze me, and it won't let me breathe. It's probably why I don't sleep that much. And while I got hurt on the 17th, about a half an hour before my 12-hour shift was over, I'm considered to be lucky. One, I survived, and two, I'm still here 19 years later doing what I love to do, and that's help people. But on September 17th, when I got hurt, it was gruesome. The guy next to me fainted because blood was shooting out of my boot about 6 feet in the air, like a lawn sprinkler. And I made him, kind of both took his belt off. It'd sound so brave and macho if I took his belt off. But I said, dude, give me a belt. I made a tourniquet below my knee. And I got my boot off, but I couldn't get my sock off. The bones were sticking through the sock. But the fire department was there within 3 minutes. I was 120/80, like nothing happened. They called it coherent shock. They put a towel in front of me. 2 guys held it up so I couldn't see my foot. I was screaming at everybody to get back to work. I'll be back in a couple hours. I wasn't back in a couple of hours. You know, I had a 4-car police escort to Bellevue Hospital, where I spent about 9.5, 10 days in Bellevue, where I developed gangrene. And my naiveness, my gullibleness, I always watched Western movies, and I always thought, like, you know, in a gunfight, the doc said, yeah, he's going to die of gangrene. I didn't really grasp what gangrene was until I actually was told I had gangrene and I was septic. And there I told my mother that I needed to be closer to home on Long Island, and I didn't want to be in the city. And the following day, they transported me by ambulance to North Shore University in Plainview. And a doctor walks in, and he's like, I'm going to save your life. And Bellevue took pins about 6 inches long and put them through my toes. You're not supposed to pin a crushed injury. There was no blood flow. So as he was talking to me, he pulled out each pin. No warning, no needle to the foot. He just pulled them out. And while it hurt so much, it felt so good at the same time. But I was curious why he was wearing a face shield, because when he pulled out each pin, black, orange, yellow, green, blue pus followed and shot all over him. And there I fought being septic with sepsis for the next 11 weeks. And I was told I could die. I was told I had organs shut down. I was told I might lose my leg. I was told I might lose my leg below my knee. My consolation is losing half a foot. You know, you lay in bed for like 2 or 3 days, and you feel like you missed everything. Your friends went to the party or the barbecue without you, or you couldn't go to your kid's graduate, whatever the case may be. I laid on my back for 11 weeks. That was not only a game changer, a life changer. And I counted ceiling tile for a living for 11 weeks when I was coherent. And, you know, when I went into the hospital, I was about 183 pounds. And when I left, I was 120 pounds. And not only did I know there was something physically wrong with me, I knew there was something mentally wrong with me. You know, before I got hurt, and not being pretentious and not thinking I'm better than anybody, but in my mind, I thought I was the world's best weekend athlete. I played every league for adults, whether it was softball, flag football. I golfed every weekend. And my mindset was that of, I was John Wayne and Bo Jackson all in one. And that humbled me. Getting hurt was the most humbling thing that ever happened to me. And it was a smack in the side of the head saying, you are not invincible. You are human. You do bleed a lot. And you are now like everybody else, just minus half a foot. And when I got out of the hospital, I never went home. I went straight to my mother's. And within 2 or 3 days, I was already starting therapy, because I told my mother, I go, Ma, I need to talk to someone. So I did EMDR for 2.5 years, and it saved my life. And if I didn't do EMDR for 2.5 years, I don't know if I'd be here today. And I don't mean like, oh, I'd kill myself. I just don't know if I would have been John Feal, the advocate, founder and president of the FealGood Foundation. I just don't know. But I know it saved my life. And when I was getting more comfortable and accepting my injury, I was also going to physical therapy because I kept having surgeries. So since 2019, I've had a surgery every year, I think minus 2 or 3 years. My life's been full of surgeries and therapies, but I've never missed a beat. Even this morning, the procedure that I had for 2 ongoing different medical conditions, I can't complain. I'm not allowed to complain. And while it's human nature to complain, just never going to complain in front of anybody. Now, granted, when I'm off camera and I'm by myself, I'm probably going to go lay in bed with a heating pad on and cry. But when I was going to therapy, I started going to group therapy. And then I started meeting other 9/11 responders. And all of these men and women, uniform and non-uniform, they all had a slew of illnesses that nobody could explain. And then, I hate to cliche it, but you know that old saying, there's always somebody worse off than you. It was so true. I was like, wow, here I am. I got a little half a foot. Boo, ooh. And these people were losing everything. They were sick. They were dying. And they were all getting denied benefits. And, at that time, I was still trying to get workman's comp. I was trying to get Social Security. I was denied the first VCF because I was hurt after 96 hours and it wasn't deemed a terrorist attack anymore. All of these things were devastating blows to me. On September 10th, when I got hurt, I had a Corvette, I had a Jeep, I had an Expedition, and I had a Harley Davidson, all in my driveway. And within 2 or 3 years after 9/11, they were all sold so I can keep a roof over my head. At the time, devastating. At the time, hurt. Everything that I worked so hard for was gone. But I look back now and they're materialistic things. That injury was a stark reminder of what I need, what I don't need, what I want. And, I see different, I hear different, I smell different, I taste different. Everything's different since that injury. And I'm not going to say for the best, but it's altered my life. But here's the thing, I didn't need 9/11 to know right from wrong. I needed 9/11 to show everybody how my mother raised me. My mother was my mother, my father, and my best friend, and she passed away in 2006. And to me, that was worse than my injury. My parents got divorced at an early age, and my mother ensured that me being the youngest of 5 children, that she perfected the last child to be the best. And I'm not saying I'm better than my siblings, but I'm definitely different. And everything I do now, no matter what it is based on my mother and the way she raised me. Growing up, every holiday, there were people at my house or my mother's apartment that I did not know. And I asked my mother, I go, Mom, who is this? Oh, this is so-and-so. They came into the stationery. My mother worked in a stationery store. They didn't have anywhere to go for the holidays, so I invited them over. And that's how my mother raised me. My wrestling coach in high school's son was born with Down syndrome. His middle name is John, because I raised money for him when I was a senior in high school. So I've always been like this. I just don't talk about myself for people to understand what makes me tick. So as aggressive as I am, and all of the other adjectives and verbs and nouns that people describe me, I still have yet to meet anybody so full of empathy or as given as me. And I know people with a lot more money than me. I know people with a lot more free time than me. But I still have yet to meet anybody who gives as much as myself. And I don't say that to be pretentious or brag, but I know since that injury and since I was able to help others, nobody's done more with less. Shell, when I pass away, when I die, when I leave this earth, and it's in my will, my tombstone's going to say he tried. No date of birth, no date of passing, no name. And it's going to say he tried. And people are going to walk by there and go, oh, who is that? And I'm going to be okay with that because I know I tried. And, my family thinks I'm crazy. When I donated a kidney 13 years ago, they told me I was crazy. Why am I doing this? You don't even know the person. And I said, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't you? I've never won lotto. I don't know that feeling. I never hit a home run at Citi Field. I don't know that feeling. But I know the feeling to give the gift of life and not ask for anything in return. And not many people can say that. And that's the feeling, the reward is amazing. It's amazing. Um, you know, going back when I was going to therapy and I was telling others on how to get workman's comp, Social Security, a lot of the stuff I did and then we did as a group was basically Neanderthalish. Is that even a word? We were thugs, but we were fighting for each other, and we were a reaction to the lack of action by the federal, state, and local governments. And then one day somebody said, start a foundation. And I was like, well, I have a problem spelling foundation, let alone running one. And, when I went to file all the paperwork, I filled out everything but the name of the foundation. And I can't even take credit for branding my own name in FealGood Foundation. There was a elderly woman, probably in her late 70s. And I wish she was alive today, or if she is, I would go there and thank her and hug her. Because when I filled out the paperwork and she said, honey, you didn't fill this out. I go, no, I did. She goes, well, you need a name. I said, well, I haven't thought of one yet. I'll get back. It doesn't work like that, And she goes, what's your last name? I said, Feal. She goes, FealGood Foundation, like that. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't want anything with 9/11 in the title of the name. Listen, I love Mary at Voices of September 11th and Terry at Tuesday's Children, or Tunnels to Towers. They all have something in their name that reminds people of 9/11. But the thing is, when people think of 9/11, they think of the worst right away. 9/11. Oh, it's a bad day. Of course it is. 9/11, people died. Of course they did. But I wanted to be for solutions and problem solving and actually getting stuff done. Not to say they don't. I work with all of them. They're doing great work. So when filling out the paperwork, I said, I can't spell it F-E-E-L. It's stupid. My last name's F-E-A-L. Can I do that? She's like, you can do whatever you want. I said, all right, Feal, capital G, all one word. And it looks cool that way. And that's how the FealGood Foundation was given birth, I guess. And, when we started, we were just a Band-Aid on a machine gun wound. We were a stopgap for waiting for help. That never came until we forced that help to come. Never wanted to get into politics because this wasn't political. It was about humanity. But they forced me to. And we were just going to put food on people's tables, put gas in the car to get the chemotherapy appointments, pay the utilities, the basics that everybody else in America somewhat enjoys, unless there's a pandemic or a financial crisis. But these men and women were suffering. And while we were helping them every day, we also knew that we needed legislation. And that gave birth not only to the FealGood Foundation on a bigger scale, it gave birth to John Feal, the advocate, human pain in the ass. And here I am today. I will never look back now, and I will never apologize to any elected official at any level. I will never apologize for any interview that I ever did. And the only ones that I owe an apology to, and I do it every time I see them, are those who lost a loved one that I took to DC or Albany with me, or New Jersey or Michigan, to help get 13 pieces of legislation passed. A high school graduate who barely graduated high school, who joined the Army at 17, has passed 13 pieces of legislation. I didn't reinvent the wheel. I didn't create anything special. I don't have a secret sauce. I just don't accept no for an answer when people are suffering. No one alive, no matter their gender, their sexual orientation, their skin color, their religion, their economic Nobody should suffer, especially in America when we call ourselves the greatest nation in the world. And for 19 years, besides myself, physically and mentally suffering, I've seen so many people suffer, and I've seen so many people die. I've been to 186 funerals. I paid for 9 of them because families couldn't afford to bury their loved ones. My best friend died from 9/11 related cancer. Yeah. Getting 13 pieces of legislation passed. We also donated about $7 or $8 million. But we also built a park on Long Island dedicated to those who have died since 9/11. And I hope that's my legacy. The other stuff's great for conversation piece, but to leave something tangible behind of a beautifully cosmetic 1-acre park with a 60-foot granite wall, that's my baby. And I don't have kids, so I can say that. That's the love of my life. And I'm so proud of that. But I'm not done. You know, 9/11's a chapter in my book. It's part of my journey. I had a life before 9/11, and I have a life after 9/11. I can walk away right now out of the screen of this Zoom interview and be content with everything I've done. And walk away and just know that, you know what? For the last 19 years, not only did I survive the gauntlet of pain and misery of my own physical being and mentally being diagnosed by 4 doctors with post-traumatic, but I've helped tens of thousands of people. And I can walk away. But if I did, I would have to close the chapter on that book, and I'm not ready to. This has always been about the journey for me. It's been about the journey of not knowing when it's going to end. And it will end. Everything comes to an end. It's, you know the old saying, you only live once. It's so not true. You only die once, you live every day. And we have good days, we have bad days. Oh, I had a good day. Oh, I had a bad day. You had a day. And that's better than the alternative, because a lot of people don't get days anymore. So I embrace each day, not like it's my last day. I know I'm going to make it till tomorrow, but it's a rush against time to get as much done as I can, because I know I'm not 24 years old anymore. I'm now 53 years old. I got hurt at 34 years old. My injury, my time spent at ground zero, took me out of my prime. And while I'm physically not in my prime, mentally, I'm just starting. I'm learning every day. I'm evolving. And I feel with age, everything is a lot easier to deal with. Everything that I've been through has made me appreciate the issues, where now the skills that I teach others to join us, I make everything so simple for everybody that I truly am the idiot's guide to getting legislation passed to helping others. And I'm proud of that. And, I surround myself with great people. The ability to be able to work with people like John Stewart, Michael Barish, and the handful of my core team of 9/11 responders that I love. I have childhood best friends, 3 or 4 of them. That's it. We are that close, that tight. But then I have best friends from the 9/11 community. And none of us anymore, ever again, and it's not allowed, if they want to be in my circle, we don't say goodbye. We say, I love you. So when we get off the phone, or we get off the golf course, I'll see you next week. I love you. Hey, how you been? I love you. I miss you. There's no goodbyes. And every one of my friends in that close-knit circle know they have to say it. And they mean it. I know they mean it. And that's how I live my life. they've all been taught and they've all been forced, if they want to be around me or they want to associate with me, that they have to have the same empathy as me. They have to have the same sympathy as me. And while I don't agree with 90% of my friends or people I help, their politics or their religion or the way they view things, I still have enough humanity in me to look past that. Where we are 19 years later, you know, when we were attacked on 9/11, first reaction was shock and awe, like, oh my God, we were attacked. We're the United States. That's impossible. Then we mourned the life of innocent lives lost. But then the anger set in. But then charity triumphed over anger. The kindness, the goodness. It didn't matter anything. The outpour of love that this country showed was the most amazing thing ever, ever. And I wish we could have bottled September 12th because we need it today. We truly need that today. We had a common enemy. Now the common enemy is each other. If my narrative doesn't fit somebody else's, well, I'm an asshole, I'm stupid, you know, yada, yada, yada. The thing is, it's really easy to dismiss somebody. And it's really easy to say, I hate you, I don't like you, because we don't agree. You don't burn calories. It's done with. You move on. But if you have to stop and have a conversation, sometimes difficult, and understand each other, listen to each other, understand another one's culture, religion, political view in life, then you actually start to burn calories and you don't need to go to the gym and get on the treadmill and you won't be a fat bastard. It's easy. It's simple logic. Stop and engage somebody. You know, I probably 1,500 interviews, 500 speeches. I've also spoken at about 200 or 300 schools. And when we go to schools, I'll take the toughest kid in the school. Who's the captain of the football team? Then I'll take the smartest kid in the school. I'll ask them if they know each other. 99% of the time, they don't even know each other. Then I'll take the most popular girl with the least popular girl or somebody that they always bully. And I'll challenge them to get to know each other for a month and then write an essay about each other. And I'll give them a scholarship. And the schools love it. And I started doing this over 10 years ago. And a lot of these kids that had to write essays about each other are best friends in life now. It's that simple that we're too worried about teaching certain. How do you turn that off? It's that simple that they teach all this extracurricular stuff in high schools and middle schools and colleges that we don't teach kids the meaning of life. Kids are sponges. They absorb things better than humans. But if we could teach the basics of respect, common courtesy, and understanding and empathy, it's not that hard. And it's not out of the realm. And for anybody to say John Feal's crazy for that, I have done this in Groton, Massachusetts. I have done this in Buckhannon, West Virginia, where they gave me the key to the city. And I said, you guys do know I'm from New York, right? And you're giving me the key to the city here. But the ability to stay in touch with these kids, some of them even worked for the UN. Some of them went on to become doctors. Some of them work as congressional aides in DC. These are successful people that years ago I touched their lives with a simple challenge. You know, I just got off this Friday. I spoke to a college in Pennsylvania, and it will come to me in a second. But in speaking to those classes, because last year we went there, and I spoke to the whole college. this year we had to do it separately in Zoom in classes. But each class, which had about 16 to 25 kids, they've now been given a challenge. And March 1st, I'll go there and present the winning class with a $2,500 check that they have to do a good deed. And they, listen, they all won because they're all doing the good deed. So it's a win-win situation, right? But now 25 strangers, because it was their first sit down actually in class, 25 kids who don't even know each other have to come together and do a good deed. And they have to film it. It has to be documented. They had a pick of my choice. So they either have to work with the handicapped, they have to work with the homeless, they have to work with veterans coming home with disabilities, or they have to work with domestic and abused women and children. And they all have to take one of those issues and do a good deed and document it. And what they did in a positive way to force the outcome of something positive in that person or that group's life. So I look forward to seeing the finished product. We've done this before in all of these schools. You know, a lot of times I just take these 9/11 responders to the schools and they tell their stories and just have them write an essay about what these guys saw. That gets boring after a while. And while it's therapy for the responders that I'm bringing to these schools, I want these kids to get more engaged and to challenge them at an early age to show their parents that they're smarter than their parents, basically. These kids are amazing. I am not exaggerating when I say I get 200 to 300 emails a day from these kids, and then another 20 emails a day from different schools asking me to come speak, or we want to do what you did at the other school. We heard what you did. And to me, that's part of the journey. While it's all based off of what happened at 9/11, it gives me the chance to expand that. And because every time these kids, whether they're in college or high school or middle school, it's an extension of me. It's an extension of how I live my life. And it's an extension of how I perceive the world. And that's how I'm going to live my life, Shelli.
I've told you to your face that I think the reason you were so badly injured at Ground Zero was because you were spared your life to lead this battle, to lead the battle for the first responders and everyone in the 9/11 community. Because had you worked every day on the pile, and we've talked about this, that there isn't anyone who's going to be spared. Everyone who worked there on the pile will have serious health issues, and you have told me that their lives will be cut short. Shorter, certainly, but you were spared for a reason. What you failed to mention was just you were also spared when you were recently fighting COVID-19 and pneumonia. Wasn't it double pneumonia?
Yeah.
And now, here's a man who donated his kidney to a complete stranger, and he has kidney stones. Very serious if you only have one kidney left. So you're dealing with that right now. John, if you could please just take me back to 9/11 that day. What were you doing? Where were you when you realized what was happening and what sent you down to Ground Zero?
Yeah, so I was in Nanuet, New York, when the planes hit the towers. I was doing a large demolition job. I had about 250, 300 people. And when the first tower was hit, everybody's phones were going off and the radio. And it was a lot of conflicting stories, if you remember. A small plane hit the building. Nobody really knew. But then we started to get an idea of the gravity of everything. It wasn't really until the second plane hit. And then I got on the horn with the boss in the office, And I said, what do you want me to do? And he said, give everybody the option of going home and getting a hotel there because we don't know what it's going to be like. He said, we're only 20 minutes out of New York City. So I gave everybody the option of going to a hotel and I would pay for it, or to go home. And before I could say go home, everybody was pulling out of the parking lot. Everybody wanted to get home to their families. I never went home. When I packed up, locked up, I was the last one to leave. And when I was driving from Nanuet to Long Island, there wasn't a car on the road. And I had to go over the Throgs Neck Bridge. And I stopped in the middle of the Throgs Neck Bridge, stopped. And I could see the shroom from the Throgs Neck Bridge. And I said, oh my God. Oh my God. And when I got back to the office, I was one of 5 foremen in a company of about 200-something people that wasn't married. And I was their traveling foreman. I traveled basically the whole East Coast, knocking things down and blowing things up. I had a good life. But I was also expendable because the boss said, we're wrapping it up today, and me and you are going down to ground zero tonight. They're gonna need machinery, they're gonna need equipment. And nobody else went, just me and my boss. And it was about a week later when they sent in the forces of the non-uniform worker. And I was just, when we pulled up and we got in there, I was in awe. I thought my injury humbled me, but what I saw was the most humbling thing ever. You know, listen, I've met a bazillion politicians, celebrities, and so many people get awestruck by them. I got awestruck by seeing what I saw. And I think that was the way I was before 9/11 enabled me to get through that 5.5 days before I got hurt. And if I didn't get hurt, I like to think because I was in such great shape that I wouldn't have gotten sick. We'll never know, right? You mentioned COVID. You know, 2020 has not been kind to me. I had major shoulder surgery. Then I got COVID and pneumonia. Then I had a bad back because of losing half a foot 20 years later, the way I walk. Then I got a kidney stone that I had an emergency surgery on. But I listened to everybody complain. I wish 2020 was over. I can't believe 2020 is not fair. I didn't get a chance to see my kid graduate. That sucks. That's sad. You know, your kid should have got graduations. You should have been able to go to a wedding or whatever the case may be. But don't say you wish 2020 was over. It sucks. Oh my God, should start all over. Because if you survived 2020, then embrace it, because it makes you stronger and prepares you what's going to happen in 2021 or 2027 or 2032. You think these are the only bad things that are ever going to happen in your life? Life? How tall is tall? How fat is fat? It's perception. So if what's happening to us right now because of a pandemic or the social uprise or the election season or bad politics, if you're going to bitch and moan about everything, then you know, 2020 truly did kick your ass. But I have every reason to believe, or I could just come out and say 2020 whipped my ass. But you know what? September 17th whipped my ass. And April 2nd, 2006, when my mother passed away, whipped my ass. And then December 20, in 2014, when my sister passed away, whipped my ass. You know, mentioning everything that happened to me in 2020, I had to put my dog to sleep in April. And that's what probably bothers me more than the shoulder surgery, the COVID. You know, so listen, Nobody goes through life unscathed. We all go through something. Right now, individually, we're all going through something, but collectively, we're going through a lot together. And if we treated this pandemic like 9/11, we'd be in a better place right now. Because we don't have a common enemy now, because we made it political. And it's personal now, and everybody's in. I love how everybody got a medical degree in 2020 because everybody's an expert or a scientist or a doctor on the COVID-19 or have a PhD in politics, and they're all experts. I get a kick out of that. And even my friends that I went to high school with, I go, dude, I just got through high school, barely, but you were worse off than me. And when did you go to medical school? So, we are the more, knowledge is given to us on a daily basis. It's right out there. It's like a buffet. It's like a smorgasbord of knowledge. And some of us use it, and some of us walk away thinking that they're going to sit down and have a nice dinner and they don't deserve buffet. But when they're eating that nice fancy steak or lobster, it's not the right knowledge that they should be getting, and it's not the right information that they should be getting. And, when I had surgery last week for the emergency surgery, they had to test me for COVID. And I said, no, I already had COVID and pneumonia. I donated plasma 8 times. And they're like, no, everybody who has surgery has to get tested. And I tested positive, Shell. I tested positive. And I said I had no symptoms. So the doctor's like, yeah, listen, you probably don't have it. But everybody in the operating room was in like these hazmat suits, like I was a freak. When I got out of surgery at like 4:30 in the morning and they sent me home, probably 12:30 that afternoon, I went and took another test at City MD. And 3 days later, my results came back and I was negative. So I had a false positive. But I now know, after taking 4 COVID-19 tests, after having it and having every symptom, I can offer my personal story, not my scientific or medical knowledge. And that's, the problem with Americans, problem with people is we all become experts because we went through something. It's not the case. It's not the case. But you can offer a personal story. I offered my personal story, what happened to me on September 17th, or because of COVID. But that doesn't mean I can cure you or help you, but I can give you the timeline of what's going to happen to you. So, yeah, we're all in this together, but we're making it difficult on each other by having different beliefs. In fact, you know what I learned since, I'm going to say, pretty much when I was born, even before 9/11, I believe in God. There is an almighty God. I believe that with all my heart. Whether he's a man or a she, or whether it's a whatever, there is a God. Doesn't mean I have to believe in a religion. I believe in the political process. I really do, with all my heart. I believe with the right people and the right incentive, we can have a political process again. But I don't have to believe in a political affiliation. And when you can remove yourself from those entities and affiliations, you're at peace with yourself. My center, my chi, is right here because I'm not controlled by a religion. I'm not controlled by a political party. And it gives me the chance to speak freely about what's wrong and not attacking one and not attacking the other, or not questioning one and questioning the other, because a lot of people will just go after one. And that just means you're a hack. That just means you're biased and you don't really know what you're talking about and you have an agenda. I have no agenda. I have no agenda in life other than to make sure I wake up tomorrow morning and help as many people as I can. And if they want my opinion on something, I will offer it. If they want my help on something, I will help them. But I am not about to diagnose anybody with anything, nor am I about to give anybody information that's wrong, that's going to make me look like an idiot and them look like a bigger idiot when they go and spread that to the masses. It's that simple. It really is. We tend to make things bigger than they really are.
Can you see yourself running for office?
No, Shelli, I don't want to wear a suit. You know, I've been approached by both parties over the last couple of years, more so than in the past. You know, I don't think she'll mind. Me and Senator Gillibrand speak a lot on the phone, you know, and we have some intimate conversations. And I've been known to drop the F-bomb a few times, and she matches my F-bombs with probably twice as many as me. And that's why I appreciate her, and that's why I get along with her, because she's authentic. And even with John Stewart, we speak every day. And they've all said, run for office. I think anybody who runs for office truly believes that they can make a difference. And they mean well. But whether it's at the state, local, federal government, they become part of a broken system. So everybody wants to run and join the broken system. But nobody wants to run and fix the broken system. Nobody wants to run and say, this system needs to be fixed. They all run and they become part of that. And then they get consumed by that. And then they're no longer the same person that ran a year ago or 10 years ago. If I did run, I would walk, not run. I'd be wearing bells, letting them know I'm coming. And I would ask my constituents, what do you want me to do? Give me your 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 top issues that you want me to address. Not because you're a Republican or a Democrat, but because you're a human being. And then I'm going to address each one of these issues. Not, I'm going to run for office, I'm going to force my own ideologies on the masses, because that's what everybody does. So there's no more political process in DC. Everything's about tweeting. Who's the wittiest on Twitter? You know, last year when the president signed our bill, he turned to me, shook my hand, and gave me the pen. Now, everybody got a pen, but that wasn't the pen that he signed the bill with. I got that. I gave it to the 9/11 Museum. But he shook my hand, he goes, nobody deserves this more than you. I said, sir, thank you, that means a lot. Because my work finally came to an end on that issue. But then he carried the conversation on. He goes, one day you're going to be more famous than me. And I said, well, how is that, sir? He goes, oh, you and your friend, John Stewart, you guys are always on TV. I said, yeah, well, you know, but I don't tweet. And I just didn't know what to say. And I said, I don't tweet. And then he laughed and I laughed. And that was July. And then in December, I joined Twitter. And what I find in social media platforms where people don't really know you until you know, I'm a loner by nature. I'm an introvert. I'm trained to be an extrovert. On Twitter, I can be me and speak freely. On Facebook, it's where I help everybody. People come to me for help. On LinkedIn, it's where I get professional contacts. They all serve a purpose, and they all allow me to be me all the time. But I never want to get that close to anybody. Listen, Shelli, you're a dear friend. Michael Barish is a dear friend. When we're alone and we're not doing interviews, we speak freely amongst each other. John Stewart and Senator Gillibrand, while they're famous, they happen to be dear friends. Why they're friends with me, I have no idea. And then I got my childhood friends. But I don't want to be close to anybody ever again, except for that circle that I'm in now. And I don't say that to be mean. I just don't want to see any more of my close friends suffer. Every time I become close with people, they suffer. And I don't want to see that. So I have this self mechanism of not letting people get close to me or really know me intimately out of the sole fact I don't want to see anything happen to them. And that's probably the wrong way of thinking, but it's just how I go through life. And people always say, well, we can't decipher whether you're serious or joking right now. And I get it. My jokes or my sense of humor is close to my seriousness. But I add humor to my seriousness to make a point and to defend myself from myself, not others. I don't care about others, but it's my own self mechanism. And, it's just like when all my 9/11 friends are together. We rib each other, we joke around, we make fun of each other, but we do that to mask the pain that we've been through for the last 19 years. 2010, 2011, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2019, we got all this legislation passed. The way I'm talking to you right now, Shelli, is the way I reacted after the bills got passed. Now, others jumped up and down and cried and hugged. I could not jump up, down, cry, and hug. Now, when you hit a home run, or you dunk a basketball, or you get married, people jump up and down and hug and celebrate. I have never celebrated any of these achievements because people were sick or people have died. How do you celebrate that? Oh, yeah, we got legislation passed. We're going to help 100 and something thousand people in the World Trade Center Health Program. We're going to help tens of thousands of people get their VCF claim. I should be like Ricochet Rabbit right now, smiling, bouncing off each wall, going, yes. And I can't. One, it's not fair. And two, I just won't allow myself. But, when I get an email or I get a Facebook message, hey, John, doctor said I'm cancer free. That means more to me than anything. That is so, because that person was in the program and that person beat cancer, there's no better feeling than that. Yeah. This morning when I was going to Stony Brook University to the doctor, and I was literally biting the bullet in pain. And the woman who checks your temperature when you walk in, she's like, I just want to thank you. I said, I don't know who, and little did I know I had FealGood on, and she goes, my dad was a first responder and he's cancer free now and he's in the program. And I was like, wow, we'll tell your dad, thank you for his service. And she's like, can I take a picture with you? I said, well, and I get that a lot where I go. And those individual stories mean more to me. And don't get me wrong, I know the significance of these pieces of legislation. Nobody really talks about it. But in 2016, I took Ray Pfeiffer with me, my dear friend who passed away in 2017, to Michigan. The Michigan firefighters contacted me and they said, Mr. Feal, will you come to Michigan? We need help getting a cancer presumptive bill passed. And I said, absolutely. The next email was, well, how much? I said, give me a bottle of water. He's like, dude, really, how much? I said, no, give me a bottle of water. We'll call it even. He goes, well, let us pay for your flight and your hotel. I said, no, I got this. The only thing I asked for is the bottle of water. You got to let us do it my way because we're not for everybody. And he goes, well, that's why we're contacting you. We know your methods. I said, I'll be there. So we planned it. A week later, I took Ray Pfeiffer and 2 other firefighters with me. And I had the Michigan Firefighter Union have all of their union members on the state capitol and to bring their kids. And I had them all hold hands and surround the state capitol. And it was a firefighter kid, and it was just all around the state capitol. And then I said, all right, guys, don't let anybody out. Whoever tries to get out of the building, don't let them out. we're going in. We'll be back in an hour, and we're going to get you a bill passed. And we went in. We spoke with Governor Snyder, and I said, you guys will have a bill passed. When we came out, there was some media there, and I said, you guys are going to have a bill passed tomorrow. And they're like, no way. I said, yeah, you're going to get a bill passed tomorrow. And they did. They got a cancer presumptive bill passed. But I can tell you behind closed doors, me and Governor Snyder at that time, because I'm sure he's a nice guy, but we were not going to exchange Christmas cards. We were not going to invite each other over for dinner. And I let him know that outside, there were people that were sick and dying from cancer because they were heroes, that they were exposed to toxins on a daily basis every time they fought a fire. And if you don't do anything about this, I'm going to make your life really, really uncomfortable. And we get a bill passed. And again, there's no scientific proof that my theory for getting legislation passes. But when, people always ask, why you guys think you were successful in DC? And the fact that they thought I was capable of violence was good enough, because I never showed violence. The fact that they knew I had nothing to lose, the fact that they knew they couldn't outlast me, because members of Congress have 2 years and members of the Senate have 6 years, and they think they can outlast you or your issue, we just showed we weren't going away. And that we got bigger and bigger and bigger, and we weren't just a handful of people running amok in the halls of Congress. We went from being that little engine that could to being that big engine that did. And now, last year when we were walking the halls of Congress to get the bill passed, there was a young lady who asked us if we would help her. And she said, you have 10 minutes. And I told my team to go to the next meeting, and I stopped in the hallway. And her name was Rosie Torres from Burn Pit 360. She told me her story about the burn pits and the veterans and the soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, K2, and all of these people sick with the same cancers and respiratory illnesses as 9/11 responders. She asked me if I would ask John Stewart if he'd get involved. And John and I both said yes. And now here we are taking on another issue. This one's probably the biggest issue that we've ever taken on. And we're going to lose a lot of good people in the process of this fight. But it's something that I look forward to. We've already been in DC. We introduced the legislation. I surrounded myself with the same great, smart people like I did for 9/11. And I like our odds are like 1,000,000 to 1 that we get this passed. And those are pretty good odds to have, because we're going to prove everybody wrong. And there's going to be a lot of members of Congress and the Senate that oppose it. The VA is going to oppose it. The Department of Defense is going to oppose it. Santa Claus is going to oppose it. And we're going to use the same methodology and the same game plan that we used for years getting legislation passed. And we have John Stewart, who's got a voice, who's got a platform. Shel, me and John are complete opposites in a way we live, but we both believe in helping those less fortunate, and we're both full of empathy. We both know right from wrong, and that's our common bond. The fact that he chooses to be friends with somebody like me is humbling, because when we talk, we just talk about anything like anybody else would. And for somebody of that stature to be so low maintenance and to be an everyday average guy is truly amazing. And I know when we're doing our thing, like we did a week and a half, 2 weeks ago in DC. We have a role to play, whether it's good cop, bad cop, the Abbott and Costello routine, you know. But when we do something together, we feed off each other, and we know what each other is going to say. And to be able to now solidify that friendship and that bond over the last decade has been nothing short of amazing. So, and I look forward to helping hundreds of thousands of soldiers who are sick and dying. These men and women, they've been at this for 10 years and they got nowhere. Nowhere. And we have a game plan. We have enlisted some of the best minds, and we're going to get this done. And I'll die. I will die. I will give my one kidney to get this done. That's how committed and dedicated I am. We owe, Shelli, these are ordinary people who do extraordinary things 24/7 to keep us safe from harm's way. These men and women freely join the military to protect us. We throw thank you around, thank you for your service, thank you for your service, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to thank them for their service, because before I was a 9/11 responder, I was a veteran of the 101st Airborne. But I'm going to thank them for what they do by fighting to get this legislation passed. If we could spend money on going to war, then we should put some money in a kitty for when they come back from war, because we never seem to have money when these men and women, and you know, it's not just military, it's cops and firefighters. When cops get shot or in a car crash chasing a bad guy, or when firefighters get hurt in a fire, or when these military members come back from overseas and they're not the same people, we hail them as heroes. And then for the first couple weeks or months in the media, we're Sergeant so-and-so or Private so-and-so or Firefighter so-and-so was amazing and what he or she did. And then they become expendable because they're a financial burden. And it's out of sight and out of mind to the American people who have so much on their plate anyway. But these men and women around our country and around the world do just amazing shit, and we don't appreciate it. And we take it for granted that they're going to keep doing that amazing shit. It's not fair.
Well, I thank you, John Feal. I love you, John Feal.
I love you more. And let me tell you something. In any interview I've ever done, nobody got me to open up and speak this freely. But I want to share one story with you before I go. And I probably only told this about 3 times. Before my mother passed away in 2006, and it was right after I started the FealGood Foundation. And I was going to physical therapy and mental therapy. And in between therapies, I stopped at McDonald's. And I don't eat McDonald's anymore, okay? Just letting you know. But when I did go to McDonald's, I always got a number 2 and a Diet Coke, which makes no, who gets a Diet Coke with 2 hamburgers and fries? And I'm sitting there pondering, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I already scraped the surface of the educating, not lobbying, and helping people. But what did I really want to do? And I'm not going to say I was feeling sorry for myself, but I was probably feeling sorry for myself. And I'm sitting there, and I'm already done, and I'm just playing with the straws, sucking on ice. And in walks this father with his 2 daughters. One was normal as day, and the other one was severely handicapped, and only noises came out of her mouth, no words. And the place was empty. And they're walking, and they sat right next to me where they could have sat anywhere. And I'm watching the father interact with the daughters. He didn't show favoritism to one or the other. He opened both of their Happy Meals, and then, you know, took the little toy out of the wrapper for each one. One was probably about 8 or 7. The other one was probably about 5 or 6. The older one was handicapped. The younger one was normal. And then I'm watching this girl interact with her sister. And the sister's playing with her and she's making all sorts of noises. She's just happy. But then I'm watching her try to get her mouth on the straw. And it was like an Olympic event. And she's there. And it took about 2 minutes for her to get her mouth to the straw, which was literally this close. And I'm saying to myself, this girl was born without a choice. Without a choice. And I was hurt at 34 years old. I have a choice. And, you know, I got up with my tail between my legs and I walked away, where I should have stood up and shook his hand and given him both a hug and say thank you. Because right after that, my mother passed away. And I've never complained since. And it's human nature to complain. And we were talking off air before, and you asked me, how do I do it? Every day I'm physically and mentally in pain. But that negative energy and that anger and that physical pain gets channeled to positive energy. Whether I like it or not, there's a little man inside of me feeding the coal, and that pain gets directed to help somebody or some people or large groups. And to watch that girl who had no choice from birth, for the rest of her life, she'll be like that, was a reminder that I have a choice to walk away, cry, feel sorry for myself, or to make a difference. And to that little lady at the business office in Yaphank, to that family, and to my mother is the reason why I do what I do.
All I could say is thank you.
Thank you.